There are Mr. Rajiv Guha, Mr. Sanjay Tiwari,
Yeah,
Mr.
just a
Trish.
brief background also, so that the others also know.
Yeah, just a moment, just a moment. You send me
Of
that
course,
message.
Mr. Sunil Nanda, I see him. Uh,
Hi, Shantanu.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, good, good. Looking forward to your webinar.
Thank
Picking up.
you, thank you. Appreciate your coming and joining.
Thank you. First time, I think, face to face,
Yes, absolutely.
even
We
though virtually.
there's no other way around,
Right,
unfortunately.
Yeah.
right, right.
Sorry,
So
Ashish.
yeah, I've already talked about Shantanu Ghosh, sir, and now I'll talk about Mr. Ritesh Bijoria. He's the CEO and Director of OMC Premia. It is the #1 diagnostic group of Gurgaon. Prior to setting up his own venture, he spent 15 years in the healthcare and FMCG segment. Mr. Rohit Vora sir is here. He came the first. He and I were the first to join this meeting. Uh, he's a CMA, cost accountant, and an experienced insolvency professional. He's based in Mumbai. Then Mr. Rajiv Guha is here from finance. He's a seasoned finance professional having more than 2 decades of experience in companies like Bharati, Siemens, and Toshiba. Mr. Sanjay Tiwari is here. He is a heavy industry business coach with expertise in walls, and fluid sealing tech, having worked with global leaders for over 22 years. Mr. Baba Grover is not here. Mr. Hassan Mirza is not here. And yeah, these all the introductions I got, sir.
Thank you, Ashish, for setting up this webinar session on the economic and business impact post COVID. A very tricky topic, I must say, because we really don't know how things will shape up over the next few months. And then there are a lot of conspiracy theories with a clear Cold War with China on the horizon. We are now on unknown terrain. So let's look at what is there on the ground first. We know that economy has always been held or controlled by the elite few in the world. And now, for the first time, the entire global economy has almost come to a stop simultaneously, and that too without a war. The COVID 19 pandemic has hit global trade and investments at an unprecedented speed and scale. If you see the initial indicators, they point to a global recession that might be the deepest in the last 120, 150 years. Although fairly rapid recovery is a possibility at this stage, as per some reports by some of the governments of the world. The main point out here is that COVID initially created a supply shock, which is like factory shutdowns, supply chain disruptions, you have dry cash flows, etc. And now we are moving towards a demand shock, where you have lower spending, weaker demand, worried sentiments. Both are going to exist simultaneously, and that makes it a bigger threat than all the previous ones. We have had depressions before, but there have been some variations in the supply demand chart. So there are predictions of massive job losses, disproportionate allocation of wealth, and greater political polarization. This is expected. Unemployment will be at the record lowest globally. The public health response in developed countries has fallen woefully short of what is needed to contain the pandemic. And the fiscal policy package that is being debated globally, and there are a lot of governments who have pumped in billions of dollars. But if you look at it in view of the global GDP or even regional wise GDP, it's neither large nor rapid enough to create the conditions for a timely recovery. The macroeconomic and financial status due to the coronavirus have dipped in just 3 weeks in comparison to the 3 years this took for the 2008 financial crisis. Economies are already on life support while governments are fighting the most dramatic health crisis of our time. As per a report, I saw somewhere, I believe it was Crystal, 70% of the top 42,000 companies in India have cash reserves to support employees for a maximum period of 2 quarters. 2 quarters only. And after that, well, they'll be winding up. And that's a very scary situation. If you look at the IMF, they have slashed growth rate forecast for the Indian economy. They're projecting a growth rate, GDP growth rate of around 1.9% in 2020. The report by Deloitte, they predict the economy would be staying at that level for the next 2 years minimum in the worst case scenario. Now, in case of extended lockdowns, even though the governments are planning to remove the lockdown, this will only worsen. Actually, it'll eventually boil down to a trade-off between public health and national economy. A chicken or egg situation for the government. Now, even if the governments infuse huge financial bailout packages, the fiscal response could hit a wall if the monetization of massive deficits start to produce high inflation. This is also expected given the cycle of mutated viruses surfacing every now and then. The last time I read it was they have around 30 mutated varieties of COVID. And the inability to produce vaccines in proportionate times. So this gap would definitely increase the inflation, directly or indirectly. Now, even if we have a V-shaped recovery, it is still impossible, almost impossible, to reach the regular trend of GDP growth by 2024, which means this situation is here to stay. It is really grim. And if this continues, there will be more deaths due to hunger and suicides globally than because of this virus. In India, the biggest impact would be on the lives of the bottom 80% of the work population, who are mainly agricultural laborers and the informal sector daily workers. Though there is an upside here in India, we had a bumper harvest, winter harvest recently this year, Rabi, and it is being ably supported through proper fiscal measures, labor and logistics support by the government. But industries like manufacturing, construction, cement, steel, public transport, food services, tourism, they're likely to take the maximum hit. But before we restart the economy, we must rethink and evaluate on what kind of economy do we want. Do we take the world back to where it was before the crisis, or do we redesign our approach to the world, be it emotional, financial, business relationships, etc.? A more contactless, automated approach, it works fine in some industries, but it's a disaster for others. Now, presuming that the world will take, a couple of years to 3 years to recover, and there's a high chance that we might have to live together with the coronavirus, the question is then, how do we adapt to the new normal? And the way things are developing, it seems that the post-crisis world will be more indebted, it'll be less global, more localized approach, and it'll be more digital. So investors will need to be content with higher taxation, and that's something almost all the investors would have to be worried about in any government across the world. So higher taxations will have a certain amount of financial repression and moderate to higher inflation, I would say, anywhere between 2% to 5%, along with, of course, populism and protectionism by various governments, while moving away from a global to a local supply chain, from the physical to the digital. Digital options would definitely stay, as once the crisis is over, consumers who have been forced to shop online during this lockdown may not fully revert to the use of brick and mortar shops. This will be a boost for companies exposed to e-commerce, fintech, cybersecurity, etc. But it will definitely affect the local kirana shops, the local pawn shops. While the government is slowly opening up the markets, it still remains unclear on how quickly consumers and regulators will regain confidence in the safety of the sharing economy, particularly if the current social distancing measures leave a permanent mark on the public consciousness. And it's definitely going to be there. For instance, if I have to go to the cinema hall with my family, I'll think twice. If I have to take my family out for dinner in a restaurant, I'll think 3 times. If I have to travel by local trains in Mumbai or in Kolkata, I'll be thinking 10 times. Will it reduce the demand for Ola and Uber and increase the demand for personal auto sales? I mean, it might eventually drive up the industry, auto industry, because of the need for having a personal space that is not to be shared with others. Will going to school be replaced by online classes for the next couple of years? I mean, I know most of the schools, even my kid, they have these online classes going on. Around a billion plus kids all over the world are using Zoom for classes and video calls. They're using YouTube for education and leisure, online edtech to learn, video games for entertainment, but all with zero governance. When I say zero governance, what about the security? What about the addiction aspects? How do you manage the creativity? How do you ensure that the mental health of the kids are taken care of? How does one eventually manage all these stuffs? So this is an area of concern. What short-term actions do companies need to take, the small and medium enterprises in particular, to ensure business continuity and protect employees? What changes do companies need to adapt to ensure long-term success, knowing that things will probably never be the same as before? Many companies will be filing for bankruptcy. Now, how can the government protect them? Or are we looking at a global level consolidation through mergers and acquisitions? Can we not increase our public spending on healthcare sector from the current 1.5% of our GDP to 3.5% of the GDP, at least for a year or two, to augment the public healthcare system in terms of facilities, equipment, and capacity? Well, there are a lot of questions, and I think the government should take a serious view of this, together with the think tank, the senior experts from the society. I think we need to also come together to work out a framework. But all said and done, the current crisis is definitely an opportunity to reset a system that has relied for long on obsolete processes. I leave it to the industry experts to throw some light on these and in their respective sectors. So maybe we could collate at the end of this discussion and see what comes out of it. Thank you.
I would welcome Mr. Ritesh to throw some light on in business in his industry during COVID times.
Sure. Thank you, sir, for getting me onto this. If I look at prospectively on the global business, what Dr. Shantanu has shared is absolutely right. And it's a time for us also to take a step back and look at that, are we doing things right? And obviously, there are a couple of things which will change the entire scenario. I would speak for a healthcare industry. I see a great challenge for a conventional business to happen until they are backed up by the technology. Two, it's a time for M&A for the entire industry, especially a healthcare industry. I see a great potential in 2020 and 2021 to have a consolidation and M&A. be it radiology, be it hospitals, be it healthcare company. The third, which I'm most feared about, is the dying of startups. Not all the startups would be able to pull on through this, and the startups which are just getting established or started working on getting established, or maybe was in position to create a break even, or maybe a little more, those who are able to create a sustainable model would have a challenges. And typically the law of fittest survives, survival works here, and maybe there will be some predator. I'm sorry to use this word, but there would be industry predator who will be waiting for this opportunity to kill this. And we have seen this happening over a period of time. But yes, 2020 and 2021 will be highly vulnerable for this kind of industries. uh, I see a drop of consumption. I see only the critical things to come. So that's something which is very important. The niche would take over the mass. So obviously, the coming time, the industry with a niche, which is industry's niche segment, would be driving the mass. So any capex, any capital investment would be a challenge. The ROI has to be stipulated or manipulated or to be equated with the survival. So this is a very complex algorithm if somebody wants to pull that through. And the last but not the least, I think something which is uh, industry driver, which is sustainable business, would take over the valuation. We have seen many startups been fairly given a high price and they've been working on a valuation. I think that all will come down. People will work on a realistic approach. People will work on the right pricing. People will work on the sustainability and tangible profit. So this is what I would like to sum up from my side.
Uh, Thanks, Mr. Ritesh, for your
Ashish,
views on
sorry,
healthcare.
Mr. Bawa is trying to get in. You'll have to let him in.
Nee, Mr. Baba is here. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I've joined. Thank you.
Oh, okay, okay, great.
Uh, we would like to know your views, Mr. Baba Groverji. Please.
Yeah, I'd love to share, but if, since my apologies, I joined a bit late. If you give me a glimpse of the audience, so I'll try to give inputs which are relevant for them, so as not to waste anyone's time.
Okay, done.
Just give me a quick sort of summary. What's the audience like and what their backgrounds and their interests, so that might.
Okay, I'll do that. Ashish, who's moderating, he's the CEO of Regrub, which is an online realty platform. Ritesh was speaking right now. He's the CEO and director of OMC Premia, which is close to where you stay, I believe. So you know them, one of the leading diagnostic chains in Gurgaon. We have Mr. Rohit Vora. He is a very senior cost accountant, CMA, insolvency professional based out of Mumbai. We have Mr. Rajiv Guha. He's a seasoned finance professional. We have Mr. Sanjay Tiwari. He's from the heavy industries side. He's a business coach. His experience has been mostly into valves, fluid sealing, technology, and all that. Mr. Hassan Mirza, I just got a message that he's there, but he's not able to see the screen.
I
He's a
can.
corporate. Oh, okay. Hi, Hassan.
Yeah, hi, I
So,
can see.
right. So he's a corporate advisor, a chartered accountant, and a business turnaround specialist. He's based out of London. And his main focus nowadays is to help clients tied over the COVID crisis. And of course, we are also joined by Mr. Sunil Nanda. He heads a company which is into water treatment globally. He's doing great work there. And so, there are a few others, as I see. I think Abhishek Mukhopadhyay is there. He's a lawyer based out of Ahmedabad.
I don't know because I am not seeing a list of people over there, but these are the people I saw.
Greetings, sir. Greetings, everyone.
Okay, hi Abhishek.
Mm.
So these are the people. I just finished my discussion, my part. Ritesh also did. I don't know whether you heard us or not, but it's up to you. For others, Mr. Bava Grover is a senior management consultant and an educationist with over 35 years of solid experience in the corporate world. He was earlier the CEO of TCS. He was a director at City Financials. Very uh, great profile to have. And he's currently the founder, director of Hexagon Consulting and Sixth Element Schools. So he's more into education nowadays, apart from whatever work he's doing on the consulting side. So, Baba, up to you now. We'd love to hear what you have in mind.
You see, on the consulting side as well as on the education side that I focus on, I've been trying to observe the future over the last 2-3 years, because on consulting I work on the future, I work on innovation and customer experience and so forth. And I see the COVID pandemic and such like pandemics and such like things becoming a norm in the future, because of the two overriding forces which are driving the planet today. One is the Industry 4.0 disruptions, which is massive change led by technology and other changes in the business model, essentially massive change, continuous change. And the other is the climate change related planetary movements, and COVID is a little bit of a fallout of that as well. So I see a shift from a growth-driven planet to a continuous recession-driven planet, and from increase to minimalism, from luxury to minimalism, eco-friendliness, slowing down, easy, across the planet, and that impacting demand for wealthy goods and wealthy sort of aspirational goods will come down substantially. And that will have the impact on a lot of these sectors, which, familiar with, there's no point repeating that. However, I think a lot of sectors are under disruption. I think someone spoke about healthcare. It will go through massive disruption, not only because of technology, but also because of alternate medicines and a shift from treatment to immunities and some of that. Similar to what we've seen in the FMCG sector, where the shift from raw FMCG has moved to some of the more herbal and those kind of movements, which have led to the development of Patanjali and such like organizations around the world, biotic and so on. So those kind of movements will gather momentum. On the education sector, we
Hello.
I think we lost him. I think
Yeah.
the net.
Baba, are you there? Ashish, others are there, right?
Yeah, all others are
We are
here.
here.
I think
Yeah, so
Mr.
we
Baba
just
got
lost.
disconnected. Yeah, he
Yeah.
might come back within 2-3 minutes. Uh, till then, I prepared some points on real estate.
Oh, great. So that's good. So let's hear you.
Yeah. So
That is one big sector.
yeah, Michael Potter said that real estate is the mother of all industry. So when you have, so it is hit in that way itself. We have a double whammy after lot many things. I myself started business in almost 2014, and since then we have been seeing more and more recessionary pressures in real estate.
Uh,
So,
I'm very much interested to hear from you, Ashish. I'm also looking for something, so just the reason your input might help me out in some way in 2, 3 months to take some decision.
great, yeah.
Yes,
So,
Ashish.
so to start with, I would like to say that if you have already bought a house, then you should be prepared for some delays. There are a lot many delays are there.
Right.
And if
You're
you are,
right.
yeah, and if you are planning to buy one, I believe you should wait for some time to and let everything settle down. Let
Yeah.
be ready with cash. You might get some very sweet deal somewhere. Uh,
Yes, that's right.
yeah.
Right.
So coming back to the industry, there has not been an industry in Indian ecosystem or worldwide which has not been impacted by this pandemic. But but for real estate, it has been a double whammy because we, especially the residential segment, we were struggling with project delays. There were so many regulatory changes. GST came, RERA came, monetization came, and this all coupled with low sales and high supply. So the real quantum of impact will be seen that how long this lockdown will last, and uh, Shanu sir and other people have said that this might take 3-4 years. So it will be a big, it will be a big challenge for businesses like us. So many experts here and other places are saying that situation may deteriorate, and we can see recessions in real estate like 2008, what we witnessed. So some very clear pointers are project delays. So I would say that there are many home buyers that should be ready to pay EMI as well as rent for the times to come. But somehow they can negotiate with the rent part, and I believe banks, government should come up with some relief package for those people whose houses are getting delayed. They are decreasing the loan rate a bit, but that is not enough. Should be more. So almost on the completion side of, we can see around 7 to 8 months delay right now also. And if somebody is looking for a house in Delhi NCR, National Green Tribunals have orders have already delayed everything by 3-4 months at this Corona pandemic. So things will at least be delayed by 1 year. So coming back to think that delays will also be because of resumption of uh, construction, because the all the labor has gone back to their villages, and it will take some while. It will take a lot of incentives from government part, from builders part, to take them back and start the construction on the speed that we all want. Uh, because on that our country's GDP would be dependent on. So I've talked about delays. I'll talk about the demand supply demand supply continuum also, that how that is going on in India. It is very clear that in the times of uncertainty, people do not take huge decisions about big ticket sizes things like real estate, car, uh, or any other thing. So, and already in this quarter, we are seeing that housing sales has decreased from the last quarter, almost to the tune of 50%. And this was the time when developers used to give a lot of incentives. There was Akshaya Tritiya, Gudi Padwa, Navratri. These all fall in March, April. So this peak season of sales has gone, and almost all builders have deferred their sales incentives to maybe after Corona pandemic. Uh, then price reactions. If we talk about price reactions, I believe that Indian real estate prices are already at bottom.
There are some deal sweeteners given by builders right now, but that is being done on a case-to-case basis. Because in the last 5 years, prices have not increased much. And if you take 6% of the inflation, prices have already cooled down by 35%. So I don't see there are major changes in pricing, but there might be some specific incentives by builders for those people who are ready with their checks and ready to negotiate. And India, if we talk about some building materials things, so India is also a big importer of steel and iron products. With production in China going down, the prices of these things may rise. So that will be also be not a very pleasant thing for builders, because they have to buy it a lot. This is the major component in building in building. So recovery path for real estate is still a long way ahead. Uh, so no more startups, no more big ticket deals, big ticket funding is coming to real estate India. And on even financial sides, I believe that large funds that used to fund Indian real estate will take a while, will take almost 1 year to come back to markets. So I believe that for the next 9 months to 1 year, uh, we would see a very low activity in real estate. So that was my take.
Okay. Thanks, Ashish. Before we continue, Mr. Bhavagova was trying to come in. We'll have to let him in.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, you have definitely, painted out the scenario and linked it with other industries, cement and all that. Okay, let's do one thing. Let's finish off, and then we'll have the Q&A session, and I might have few queries for you as well. So, who's next, Ashish?
Yeah, I think Mr. Baba was disrupted in between. He should finish his
Yes.
his take. Yeah.
Yeah. I think word disruption is very appropriate. Yeah. So I'm sorry, I don't want to take too much time. I don't know where the problem was, but essentially we will see massive disruptions all around. Valuation will come down. Minimalism, the green stuff, all of the eco-friendly minimalism will take root and everything. And my read is this whole COVID-19 thing is a little bit of a scam and a little bit of truth. So the real truth is somewhere in between. So it will start with massive interventions in offices and homes on social distancing, etc. But slowly will peter off over the next few months. And generally things like namaste and keeping some distance and hygiene, etc. will remain. But the levels at which it is operating and it is being projected to sell a lot of this hygiene equipment will all get diluted. Because by then another pandemic will come and new problems will come. So therefore, I think as senior people, we need to deal with this both from the reality as well as optics standpoint, our respective businesses and organizations, and get on life and try to optimize the situation and be very clear that some of this will die down. Just like the whole pollution scam was there till last year, 2 years, things were being shut down. And, we went through multiple odd even and all kinds of pollution related interventions. Slowly we forgot about it and we moved on in life. Then a new pandemic like this is taken over. And such like pandemics will continue every 1 or 2 years. So we need to treat it as which will continue to disrupt.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks, Mr. Baba. I think Mr. Rohit sir, kindly share your views Mr. Rohit Vora.
Is he online?
I am new
He's online.
to all people. My voice is audible, na?
Yeah.
Yes.
See, basically, as a personally, if I take it, is in a positive line. The things which I was not used to adopt, such as like a digital media, I am start using it, and that could give us a good way to come close to our clients. Previously, we used to plan to go meet the clients. Now with this digital media usage, we would be able to come closer. The personal effect which I am having, I am mapping it to the industry. Industry, while I am speaking as to a medium and small scale industry, they would be definitely not using this digital media and not having benefits of this. See, big companies, MNC companies, and other corporate people, they are used to it. So, adjusted to the COVID situation and post-COVID, they are to take this. So, and it is basically a test of cost saving. The people who will be having a good money to spare with, is the other person difficulties are opportunities to a person who are having a good saving right now. That is the only to the limited angle I could take it.
So Rohit sir talked about the benefits of social media. Only yesterday I was discussing with Shantanu sir that there is no offline personality right now. Nobody is gonna meet any. Nobody is going to meet physically. So there is only online personalities right now. What we are sharing on our social profiles will be part of our online personalities, and people will know us through that.
Right.
So I'd like to ask Mr. Rajiv Guha to share his views.
Sir,
Your
your
voice
voice
is
is not
little low.
clear.
Hello. Hello.
Yeah, you'll have to speak loudly. We are not able to hear you.
Hello. Is it audible? Is it audible?
Now it is.
Yeah. See, what Ashish was talking about the slowing down of sector, that's because of demonetization and GST, which brought in, and HERA. Because HERA is a controlling measure which government
It is
brought in.
not audible. It is not audible, I think.
It's not clear. You'll have to make some adjustments, or maybe use the headphone.
Hello. Hello.
Yes.
It's audible now.
Yeah, it's audible now.
See, and realty sector because of maybe GST and demonetization and RERA, just to, maybe that has gone against the builder, the companies, but they were brought in to support the buyers as well. But I agree with him that because of this COVID, a lot of workers who are coming from different states have gone back to their home. They have to brought in again to their state of work, so that again this work can happen. As regards as about cash concentration for corporate, because we have for any company there will be 20-25% of the cost will be overhead which we have to fund every month. So already a couple of months have gone where they have to give the payouts for salary and fixed cost. So there is a real challenge for the corporate sector, and we have to see how government comes with some measures from moratorium from the bank loan and interest, which some part they have already given for recently. So there are challenges which we have to see how they can be tackled. And from the positive side, I can see that when some sector from China, which is now the biggest exporter of supply chain, that can shift to India and other Southeast Asian countries. So there are scopes where electronic goods, medical equipments, where we can hope that there will be some shift from China to India, and which will benefit its export market. So there are some positive side because of this COVID. So that is from my side. Thank you.
Yeah, I would like to ask Mr. Hassan Mirza to share his views regarding the topic today.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, perfectly.
Yeah. No, thank you. Really, thank you for inviting me. I really enjoyed listening to the other delegates and speakers.
There is an echo going on. Can you manage that part, Ashish?
I would say those people who are not using, those who are not talking, kindly mute your ear microphone, so it might control it. Sir.
Right.
Yeah. Can you hear me? Yeah. Okay. So I was fascinated by hearing the different speakers from an Indian perspective, and I actually thought it was more pessimistic than I thought it would be. Overall, I mean, it's going to be tough for the next 3 months, and I think there will be some winners, obviously online, and there'll be some losers. For example, the sort of tour operators. But for the vast majority of businesses in the middle, this is an opportunity for them to reconfigure how they operate, and cash flow is going to be critical in this. But if they can get through the next 3 months, possibly maximum 6 months, no doubt there may be a repeat of the virus again in winter, in the cold months. But if they can get through the next 3-6 months and reconfigure their business based on the lower turnover, and possibly share some of the pain among the employees, so they don't just lay off huge numbers of people, and this reduce the wage bill in terms of sharing the bill, as opposed to making people redundant. I think India will be okay compared to companies in Western Europe and America. I think it'll be much worse. And of course, one of the speakers that mentioned earlier, the movement of businesses from China out of China, and I think in the medium to long term, India will benefit from that. It takes a long time for a new factory to set up and train staff, but I think in the medium to long term, India will benefit from that. Although there'll be some movement of industry back to Europe and America, key industry, but on the whole, I think India is going to benefit overall.
So some silver linings for India. Thanks for that. I would like to ask Mr. Sanjay Tiwari to talk about his take on this COVID pandemic.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. I have to just. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Actually, I just put my video off because my signal was my video had some net connection here, so just I had to come with my sound like that. Can you hear me? I think I'm audible. Hello.
Yeah, Mr. Sanjay, perfectly audible. Kindly go
Okay,
on.
thanks. I was just going. I was just hearing everybody's regarding points regarding this COVID, what is going on in this period. I want to share my experiences. I work in an industry basically with the maintenance, and I work in an industry called fluid sealing technology, where I'm working with a company in MNC, where we look after how to stop leakages in refineries and power plant. And this I've been doing for the last 22 years. And what I feel, I feel basically, like if I talk about refinery sector, I feel we are going to lose a lot of business now this year because maintenance is not coming up. Maintenance will not come. There was few maintenance which is supposed to come. They are going away. They will be not going to get any project this year. And what most worried for me, because I deal with persons who basically with the contractors, with whose people I able to do a lot of jobs in different industries. And at this moment, at least I can say, like for example, in IOCL Panipat, the contract workers, the employees around 10,000, and the contract workers are there about 50,000 people, and not a single one has a job, not a single one. So, and these people are basically rely on the daily basis what kind of business they get. So it's very difficult for at this moment. I was just going through one. I was just remembering a two-line from a poem written by Henry Derozio. He said, "Eagle pinion is chained down at last, and the groveling in the lowly dust that art thou." I think we are going to face a lot of things. In aviation fuel has already demand for aviation fuel has already gone down by 33%. Then the petrol demand has already gone by 17%. Diesel demand by 27%. The crude is full, the storage tank is filled, the entire storage tank is filled with the crude oil. Even maintaining that it's more costly to keep a storage, maintaining that crude in the storage tank than using people. There will be because since there no production is taking place in refineries at this moment. For example, IOCL has already reduced their production capacity by 27%. HPCL are contemplatively planning to reduce the refining process. So we are going to lose a lot of it. We are going to lose a lot of business, and not only business, a lot of people livelihoods are going to go away in this COVID period. It's very difficult now. MSME sector also has already lost a lot of business. 30% of the GDP basically come from MSME sector. Now, it's a huge. I can't see a good business coming for us from refineries or power plant in next 6-7 months. And COVID is not going away so fast. I don't see something would start in next few months. Projects, even the IOCL, EIL projects has also gone down. There's no projects are going on apart from 1 or 2 sectors which they are revamping now. So overall, the scenario is very bad, and I don't see a very silver lining anywhere around the next 1 year. Companies are going, even my company, people are laying off. A lot of companies have been laid off. It's going to be difficult. Basically, in our sector, it's going to be very difficult. As earlier I was listening to him, yes, of course, the tourism sector has gone down very badly. There are silver lining for our education line where people can look at. I am also myself nowadays started doing a lot of webinar from a mobile or from a laptop, because earlier I was not very comfortable using this tech, but I'm doing it now. In fact, I had some presentation yesterday morning with some refineries. I see this is the future where we have to work out. But at the ground level, as I said, what I feel like in my sector, especially in maintenance side, there will be a lot of layoff. A lot of people are going to lose job in this sector. This is what I have to say. And, what I feel exactly. Thank you.
Thanks, Sanjay.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Sanjay, for your views. And we heard lot many diverse views from different industries, different people. And as Mr. Baba said earlier, that there's little bit truth, little bit conspiracy theories, and the real truth is between somewhere. Uh, it looks something like that. There are some grim people. Some people are seeing silver linings. So I would ask Mr. Shanu to sum up.
Well, before I do that, it's a privilege having Mr. Sunil Nanda with us. Would request him also to share his views.
Yeah.
That would be great.
Yeah, thanks, Shantanu. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, audible. You're audible, sir.
Oh,
Good
great,
evening.
great.
Good evening,
Great.
Mr. Nanda. Good
Hi,
evening, sir.
Ashish. Hi, everybody. So I'll just share some experiences. We are a manufacturing company, and we manufacture a few formulations which are used in the environment industry, particularly in water pollution, aquaculture, and even in agriculture. So, and we export about 90% of our product overseas. There's very little that we do in India. The reason is quite simple that, we did 3 contracts in India with the government, and all 3 we've not got our money. So there is one bill which is
I know that.
one bill which is pending for over a year, another one for a year, and few for a few months. So, but I don't know what happened of late. These people are now contacting us and saying that we're going to pay you. So obviously, we raised some grievances from MSME that there has to be some policy directive to the government that they have to settle our bills in 1 month. What happens is we submit the bills, and these people sit over it, they delay it, and then they expect you to come around and oblige them. And I don't do that. So I have a very bad reputation in India that I'm not going to bribe anybody. And these government people, they just want that. But on the export side, it's pretty good business for us. In fact, we've been working through COVID. We've been manufacturing, and we've even been exporting. So we got hold of FedEx. FedEx said that they can't pick up the cargo. So because we deal in aquaculture, we had this exemption, and therefore we took our material every time to the airport and delivered it there. But these are on the micro scale. What I'm seeing really is that you've seen that Yamuna, Ganga, every river is looking cleaner, and we've been telling the government about it, that there are biological ways to treat rivers and drains and lakes, and they won't believe us. And there was a big STP lobby, sewage treatment plants and wastewater treatment plants, and they said, and the pollution control board people worked with them, and they said, this industry is not polluting at all. And now you suddenly realize during lockdown that they were really the culprits, and this matter is not being understood by the government even at the highest levels. So I see a bit of clearer understanding on part of the government decision makers, and we are getting hints that after the lockdown they will take up a number of projects to rejuvenate the rivers in the real sense. So what I'm seeing is and even in US, Canada, Malaysia, and other places, find that our exports held up during the COVID. In fact, it only improved. And we are hopeful that in our sector, things are looking up. So, for example, the experts estimate that about 2% of GDP is lost due to water pollution in India. That's a phenomenal figure. So, if the water becomes cleaner, obviously, the 3 million deaths that's happening around the world due to water-based pathogens won't happen, and there will be a cut in the spend of public health, I feel. So that money will be saved by the government, not only in India, but across the world. So I think the government may be wanting to reinvest that money in getting our, pollution in order. That's what I feel. On the PPP model, the government has been advocating PPP model for citywide sanitation projects, etc. Shantanu will be able to probably speak a few words on impact on PPP due to COVID, because the cash flow would become a problem with most private sector companies, and I don't know how this PPP model will really work out in the future. Um, all in all, we need to expand, from our perspective. We need to go to Africa. Hassan is here, Shantanu is here, and we find a lot of opportunity overseas. This could be one big sector, one big export for the country. But, we always, government does not support us, unlike China. And I find that we'll have to dig in and find our own solutions. And, there are huge lakes in Africa. Because when we talk about our technology, it not only improves the water quality, but it also improves the fish population and restores a lot of livelihoods for people who are living in those areas. For example, the fish population can easily double in 2 years, and it can go as much as 10 times. And you can imagine with that kind of fish coming back into lakes and rivers, people can make, some livelihoods can be restored very easily. But we need to work with people like Shantanu and others and go with a proposal which has the technology and the funding part both linked to it. So that's the future as I see for our sector and for my company in particular. If you have any questions, we'll do Q&A. Thank you.
I want to add one thing what Mr. Nanda has said. Mr. Nanda, sir, as you lightly mentioned about the Pollution Control Board, I was trying to talk to them regarding fugitive emission standards for so many years. They were not even bothered to understand what kind of emission can take place from the valves, from the pumps. Recently, about a week back, I got a mail that they were looking for a standards how to control the emission in the plant.
Right.
And I was so surprised. And they said we have to work on a module or type of a module we required to save the leakage from the valve, because the emission was, because I have personally seen emission standard. They say it should be less than 100 ppm now, according to the API plan. But I have seen in refineries, especially I name it in HMEL, in FCC areas, they had a leakage about 4,000 ppm coming from one valve. And I calculated entire plant, they were losing more than 100 crore rupees only from one particular area.
My God.
They were not bothered. They were not bothered. But suddenly now, when the cash is going down, everything, now people start looking into how to save it.
Yeah.
So, it's okay. I'm also working on the module. Let's see how thing works out. But
Lovely.
I believe there will be a time when people will start understanding. Yes, of course, from my balcony, I could never see a Dadri chimney. This is the first time in Noida I could see a Dadri chimney in front of me, which is almost 80 kilometers. So if you really look into it, a positive side also is very nice. Although I'm away from my home, I'm not able to go home. But let's see. I believe there will be a good scope for us in next couple of years. We have to work hard. Yes, sir. Right. Very nice of you, sir. If you said something very important for us also.
Thank you. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much. Appreciate. sharing your views. Um, Basically, at least yours is the only business from what we have discussed so far today that seems to be doing good even during the COVID, and that's a ray of hope. But yes, what you're saying about lack of policy directives from the government side, I think there are things that need to be ironed out. Uh, but yes, that there is definitely going to be what I mentioned, certain amount of polarization also, and certain amount of localization, which will happen. Uh, over the time, people would be, if this thing continues, the same psyche continues, people would be very about importing too much, depending on external resources rather than building in-house. That's for example, that's what India is doing with the PPE kits and all that. After initially trying to procure from China. So overall, from what I see, we all agree to the issues that are being created because of the two shocks that I mentioned coming up: supply shock and the demand shock coming together simultaneously. Okay, Ritesh, you put in a few good points, and something that really attracted me was niche is going to take over the mass. That's a very strong statement, Ritesh, and this will definitely, if that happens, it will define the industry of the future. How the economy will function, how the industries will function, whether we are going to have big elephants running the show, or we can have, rats leading the way. But that's one part, and second part was the predatory poaching during the M&A stuff. Speaking of M&A, I actually raised a point, and I would like to ask Mr. Rohit Vora. Under these circumstances, we saw what China was trying to do. They were trying to acquire companies, and this probably might be a good time to acquire companies that are doing that are going down under. Now there are two parts to it. One is willful acquisition or a merger, and the other is, as Ritesh pointed out, predatory in nature. So you actually force the other company to sell. As a professional who's been into this, as a resolution professional, how do you actually see it shape up in the near future? Do you think this is one particular area that would probably have a huge impact in the Indian market scenario? Mr. Vora. Mr. Vora, are you there?
Sir, Mr. Vora is not there temporarily.
Okay, fine.
Yeah, he's coming back. He's coming back.
Oh, okay. Mr. Vora, are you there now? Ashish, is he back?
He came back, but now I'm not able to see his video also. So.
Yes.
He isn't there right now.
He's not there.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So that was one question I had for Mr. Vora. Baba, you put across few very pertinent points, and especially this um, scam or conspiracy theories that are doing the rounds. Some of them do seem very realistic. So we don't really know what is the truth. Maybe it will come out in the near future. But what's important is till the time it comes out, and by the time people actually react to that, it seems we are all going with the flow, with the wave. Since it's like a COVID wave that we are riding. Unfortunately, whether we believe it, we don't believe it, whether we like it, we don't like it, there is a global impact because of this COVID situation. And you're right, there's going to be a slowdown of prices of goods, and that will definitely lead to a huge, again, further gap, which will come up. I don't know whether you heard what I was when I was talking, but there was a particular point I wanted to discuss with you, which I had raised during my session. So there, people, especially the students nowadays, they're going online, they're studying online, they're using, Google Meet, they're using Zoom. Uh, the kids are getting more used to the digital way of teaching. They're getting used to YouTube channels for exploring further things online, also for leisure, also for some maybe games, maybe for doing some other stuff. They're using online educational technology to learn. They're playing video games. The point I raised was all these have, as per me, zero governance. How do you actually address this, Baba?
So, see, on the education sector, is obviously a very good sector, and children are the next generation. It's very challenging for the children, very challenging, especially the younger children and even the older children. Their emotional stress levels, exposure to screens for long durations, and the role of parenting and the role of parent to bridge the relationship between the student and the school or the college, and be the emotional anchor and support is very important. So there are changes taking place to some extent across education institutions. For example, in our school, we have created a very interactive online schooling during this period, and it's still on, but it's very interactive. And what is key is to come close to the in-class environment from an interaction between students and between the teacher and the students, where with the parent playing the role of a bridge. So we've had to counsel parents on parenting, because the parent is sitting with the child, sessions are on. And sometimes what happens is that the parent is also observing the teacher and also observing what other children are doing or saying in the class. And the parents are getting pretty hyper about how their own child performing or speaking or showcasing his or her work. And the parent is playing the role of a parent in the class. So we have counseled our parents that please do not do parenting when the class is on. Your role is to be the teacher and to mirror and support the teacher in those conversations. So, I think a lot of steps like this, we've also had to play around with different technology mediums. We finally got down to Google Meet and also Facebook Live as the two mediums to keep it interactive. To toggle between sessions with full screen and sessions on only audio basis to reduce uh, the, the pressure on the eyes of sitting in front of a screen for elongated periods. So I think a lot of this work is going on. But the key is to make it into a hybrid model, because more than the learning of the subject, it's important, the social interaction between peers with other members of and the teacher is more important than learning the subject. So therefore, I think education institutions are also going to change and evolve. But I think at the end we will evolve in the education sector in the next few months into a hybrid model where some sessions will continue online and some sessions will be in the physical campuses uh, with greater social distancing and therefore lower number of children per class ratios and so forth.
Right. So these are
Yeah.
good stuff, but in general, if you look at it, what you said is definitely good and encouraging. When I see my child onto the system, uh, I'm worried about the security features. You never know what crops up nowadays.
Sure.
I'm worried about the addiction.
Sure.
This guy, little fellow, is getting addicted. I'm worried about his creativity getting curbed. I'm worried about his mental health. He's on the tab playing some games on a continuous because he's addicted to that. He's not reading books. And I'm sure this is the case with almost everybody, not just me. And there are around I think around 1.2 to 1.5 billion children online globally right now. So the impact it is having not only on the mental health, but also because by virtue of staying inside, lack of physical activity, on the physical health. So it's definitely impacting the next generation that we are creating. So one of the points I was referring to was, what kind of economy are we planning to get back to? This is also one big area that I hope the global experts, I hope the governments across the world take serious note of. And what you're doing is excellent, and I hope others are, they can also follow suit. But not all of them are doing it. Not all of
See,
them are actually considering this.
most schools are simply running online sessions.
Yes.
Writing some of these things, uh, but I think it's a mixed bag. There are good schools and not so good schools, and I think eventually, if you go back to the point that the other gentleman had rightly made, of right. So the other way to understand this would be in terms of quality. And therefore, from volume, we are going to go to value. From mass production, we are going to go to niche areas, and therefore high quality, more customer centricity. And for organizations, so to the other gentleman who's in the maintenance space, I would say that while refineries and the oil sector may go down, maintenance space, there may be more opportunities. So I think it may be worthwhile to look left and right and to try and innovate into adjacencies and other areas, and it may not get so bad.
Right. Thanks, Baba. Ritesh, a question for you actually. You're from the healthcare industry. You are exploring global opportunities from what we had discussed last, um, both in terms of diagnostics, in terms of setting up of healthcare services, etc. One of the points that I suggested, if there is any way by which we could probably request the government to sort of increase the GDP spent on healthcare from 1.5% to at least 3.5 to 4%, at least for one time or twice. So for 2 consecutive years to augment the public healthcare system. Is there anything going on in your industry? Are the industry experts talking to the government regarding this, or the government is still stuck with that 1.5%, which is woefully short? And we have been exposed. The healthcare system in the country has been exposed badly during this crisis. So what is going on? Do you have a feeler about that? Do you know what's any information out there? Ritesh?
Sir, Ritesh is not here.
Oh, we missed out two important crucial questions then. One was related to the merger acquisition, the other is to healthcare. Well, then let me catch hold of you, Ashish, since you are there. Well, you spoke about the downslide in your particular industry, cooling up of prices and all. I was just checking out with some of the builders in Kolkata, and you'll be surprised, the rates are still up. I mean, it fell a bit, but the rates have, sort of flattened and it's rising. And I was really surprised. I checked out with the rental market. The rental markets are moving up. Why?
Sir, in the rental space, there was a lot of demand because people were not buying homes.
Okay.
That was the reason rentals were going up. But this COVID pandemic will definitely flatten the growth of rental market also, because the government has given some directives even in all over India, that for 1 to 3 months landlord should forego the rentals. And as the jobs are less, the rental market is definitely go down. Plus, if we talk about the residential sale market, for the last 5 years, in very few pockets, rates are increasing.
Mm-hmm.
So if you take into the account of inflation, rates have flattened almost 40 to 40%, and there are many cases, because real estate is a large ticket size, so people negotiate 1 to 1. There are many cases there where builder hasn't publicly reduced the rate, but they are selling their inventories at a reduced rate 1 to 1 through brokers, through other distribution channels.
So you have the inside news.
Yeah.
Okay. Great.
Yeah.
So great.
Yeah, I will tell you. I will give you one example also.
Sure.
In these COVID times, we have a distribution channel of almost 30 branches pan India, and we were able to do in the last month very few bookings happened. But these all bookings happened at a very sweetened deal. Builders gave 5 to 6, even up to 10% discount if people are willing to buy right now, and many people bought it.
Okay. Okay. Well, I don't know about the rentals being, foregone. I mean, maybe in certain cases, but in most cases, especially the mid-tier, middle class type, nobody is foregoing the rents. That's for sure. I've spoken to quite a few people, and they said it's all in the government level. Nothing's happening on the ground. If we don't pay the rent, the landlord will throw us out.
Yeah, what you are saying is right, sir. But I know a lot of people personally, because as a company we are not into rentals, so we don't have much data. But I know a lot of people personally who have negotiated with their landlord about reduced rentals as well as foregoing of rentals, and many landlords skim to it. Even in our case, I will give you our corporate office case. We are part of a co-working office for the last 2 years, and it suited us very well. We had around 25 seats out there and some cabins. Then when this pandemic happened, we negotiated with them that and they reduced the price by 75%, and they are just charging us some fixed cost till the time office is again open.
That's good. That's good. Okay. Is Mr. Rajiv Guha online?
Yeah, tell me.
Okay. Well, I had a question for Mr. Rohit Vora. Would you like to take that question on
Yeah,
the merger and acquisition side?
no, I think you have to direct to him only.
Okay. Well, you talked about various government schemes for the MSME segment. I read somewhere that government is trying to infuse a lot of funds, and they're practically telling them to stay afloat. I was seeing a news clip, I think yesterday or day before. There were a lot of workers who've been laid off in Greater Noida, and this reporter was interviewing 2-3 of those owners, business owners, SME business owners, and they said that we have been hearing about these government schemes. We have not got anything in our bank. Nobody has approached us. We don't know where to go. These are only talks going around. Even I mean, I run a small consultancy firm, as you know. I've not received anything from the government. No intimation, no letter. Forget getting some money into my account. So what's actually happening? Is it there or it's just hogwash?
Want me to answer?
Yes, please.
Yeah, in the news also, I'm hearing that around 20 crores of bank accounts have been given credit for this under this COVID. And that too also to women workers, 20 crores of women workers in India. That means you are talking about 135 crores of total population. Out of that, they have funded to 20 crores of accounts in India. So, and that also number of accounts was so huge that they were transferring those funds in 8 days, depending upon last digit 0, 1, and 2, 3, like that. So I really wonder how come that 20 crores of accounts means that will we will talk about 4 persons per person in a families, and it will account for the whole of India. So I really don't know how and where this money is going, and there is only to the women workers it was written.
Okay, so these are just limited media news kind of that is being circulated.
They have funded that Jan Dhan Yojana, where they have given loans to more than 5 crore of people as on 31st March of 2020. So more than 5,000 crores of people. Sorry, 5 crores of people. Sorry, 5 crore of people they have given loan as on 31st March of 2020. 5 crore of people means, again you can say that 25 to 30 crore of they have means if 415 per person, they will account for 25 crore of people. So that also 3,000 crore of loan they have given. So these are the data, statistics. If you open those sites, you will see. But where this money is going and how and who is taking those money and how this is getting utilized is a question that the finance ministry should answer.
Okay. Is Hassan there?
Yeah, I'm off mute now.
Okay, great. Hassan, apart from Mr. Sunil Nanda's very, very positive views, the only other person who put across very good vibes, even in this grim scenario, is you. So you feel very positively about India. So that's great. But you know the global scenario. How do you actually see, or rather, what would be your advice for small and medium enterprises to, do to tide over this pandemic, at least for the next 2-3 years? That's one. Second is, again, maybe I'm trying to shift the question from Mr. Rohit Vora to you. Uh, what about the predatory mergers and acquisitions that someone did hint at? Do you think there is a chance? What should be the way out?
First of all, starting with your sort of last question first. Can you hear me?
Yes, loud and clear.
Yeah, starting with your last question first. In times of crisis, it's always a bigger enterprises who have got access to finance, and it's much easier for them to acquire the sort of medium-sized companies at the next level. But I think from a point of view of a small and medium-sized company, it's a question of getting back to their core skills, core competencies, and focus on those. And when we do a turnaround report, what we tend to do is basically the next 3 months, work on a 13-week cycle. So you work out your cash flow on a 13-week cycle and look to establish what your minimum cash flow will be. For a small business, I think that's going to be critical, really. In the UK, you do get sort of government support in terms of loans to pay wages. I don't think you'll get the same in India. So the access to finance is going to be much more harder than over here. Yeah, so it's back to the core business, really, and how you can develop that and focus on that.
So you're looking at a major consolidation wave coming over globally?
In my own clients, those businesses which are not that profitable, not reopening, and those businesses which were profitable, they're going to focus on those businesses. And of that, but I see coming out of this, the core businesses will have an opportunity to grow if you stick to your core.
Okay. Thanks, Hassan. Sanjay?
Yes, tell me.
Yeah, you painted a grim picture about the unemployment in your sector, heavy industries.
That's right.
That's something that's going to stay because they have been the largest employers, and like if you look at the workforce in the country, a majority of them work for the heavy industry segment.
That's right.
Under this scenario, what would you as an expert suggest to this big players that they should be doing to ensure that lives are not lost? It's not just employment for them, because most of them are low-level workers, and
yes,
these workers, they don't get paid that much that they could sustain for a year or two. So if they lose out on the job, they lose out on their lives practically. The other thing which I've seen is, even though the government is trying to help them with free food, free rations and all that, but that's okay for people who are the BPL class, below poverty line class. But for people who are like the lower middle class, for them to stand in a queue and waiting for the food packages to be given to them is a big concern. They wouldn't do that. They would rather prefer death. So it's a psychological problem also that comes facing. And since you do a lot of these sessions and you're a business coach, what do you advise them? How to cope up?
First of all, let's put it like this. We go to the Maslow theory, the first part, the basic need. Now I deal with these kind of workers who every day they get money for they basically go to a plant. We hire them for a per day basis, and they work. They do the maintenance job for us. Now let's put it like this: there's no job here. Even the contracts which we were supposed to get has been postponed till December. For example, for December, I was supposed to do something in May. On 15th May, they were shut down. Now it has gone to December. Now there are 6 months like. People are there, contractors are there, they have hired people, they have to pay them a salary. I think government should come out with some kind of a plan, where we can save their interest. I don't know how they are I have not seen any money has been transferred to anyone's account. At least I workers which I know, they've been talking to me. In fact, I have to pay few. I have already paid few of them because they had some basic need. The basic need is not getting fulfilled. Now, standing in a line or not line for psychology disadvantage, or it's a matter of survival here now. Very important is the survival. How these people are going to survive. 30,000 to 10 to 15,000 contract laborers, they don't have a job. They are either migrating to different places, going back home. I know one of the guy who has just walked down till Lucknow. He called me, "मैं लखनऊ तक walk करके गया." I went to walking down. The point is this: in my sector, if they don't do maintenance, or even government doesn't come out with a package for them, it will be very difficult, Shantanu, very difficult for them to survive. COVID is not going to kill so many people, but hunger is going to kill. And that is very difficult. We all are today speaking because we had a food today. But there are people who are not having any food, and especially these kind of workers who get 700 rupees in one day for work, and they get 15 days job in a month, 15 days job in a month. They run their show. Now this is stopped. It's totally stopped, except one or two contractors who are working. So it is very difficult. I think government should immediately look into them. They should make sure that they get a job. They get some kind of a job to at least survive now. That planning has to be done very properly.
Well, Sanjay, the only issue out here is, as I said, it's a chicken or egg. That there has to be a trade-off somewhere between personal health and the economy. When you're saying government should ensure that they get a job. To get a job, that means they have to open up the industries, which means no lockdowns, which means work going on as usual, which is not possible. Even if they open up partially, that means you can only work with 50% of the people at max. So what about the rest 50%? There will be issues, I guess, and that needs some deep introspection, not only from the government side, but also from the side of the industrialists who run the show, from the side of business advisors, coaches like you and me also, and other people who have some influence in the market. I think we should all come forward and try to come up with a
whom I coach. Let's put it like this: whom I coach. I coach those people who has their means and they work out very well. It's okay. I cannot go and personally, if you ask me, I can't go and coach a worker who doesn't have a food with him.
I'm not saying that. The coaching has to be done to the people who can manage.
Yes, that is what I'm telling. There has to be some planning. Like for example, IOCL is trying to bring these sectors of workers, who contract workers, into. In fact, they have made sure that if they have not got the money, a lot of people have not received the money from the contractor. They had made sure that they have received. They are going to get some kind of money back to their pockets. That what some refine, but this is not happening in every places. It's not happening in every people. We have to find, because people are suffering. There's no doubt about it. The people, if you go to, I don't know whether you've gone to, if you go to refinery, out from refinery, within any refinery, within a circumference of 1 or 2 kilometers, you'll find a lot of colonies have been built by this worker, because they stay there every day. They go inside the plant to get their work. For example, the cutting of the grass, they also get 600 rupees per day. That has been stopped. That has been completely stopped.
Sad. I guess we need to rethink.
Yes.
Ashish, any questions you would have, or anybody else? Abhishek, if you have any questions, or anybody else, and please feel free to drop in. I mean, we've extended our time a lot, but there have been a lot of good inputs that we're getting, and I hope someone somewhere will be able to consolidate this and share it with the government.
See, I could only offer. In our consulting firm, we help organizations innovate and change with the change. Because it is very easy to say you innovate, but very difficult to actually do it. And innovation is not an individual job, it's a organization-wide job. So we have what we call as a pocket model, which is an acronym that means P is for people practices, O is for operations, C is for customer feedback, K is knowledge management, I is information technology, and T is core technology. So integrating inputs from all of these things, we help organizations innovate and change with the change, because that's easier said than done, right? So I think while we can rely on the government, all organizations will need to become far more innovative, not only to survive, but also to thrive.
True.
True.
Anybody else would like to share any last pointers or any queries?
I think Santanu, I want to say, I think these kinds.
Ashish, would you like to take over then?
Yeah, I think in the next session we can put more, we can take more queries. We have overshot our time. And I believe just sharing my thoughts that I believe this is a this is an opportunity for India to grow into an entrepreneurial kind of economy. If somehow we can become digital, we talked about change, a lot of people talked about change here. Mr. Hassan Mirza talked about that India can grow right now. So I believe if India has to grow with entrepreneurial mindset. We have to go, we have to come out of that job kind of mindset. We have to be part of this gig economy, become entrepreneurial, become digital. Then I think we can leverage our good young people to become a world power.
Yeah, that's the only option left behind for us.
Yeah.
Great. So I think this is good enough. We have had a very good session. From my side, I thank all of you for taking the time out and sharing your valuable views with us. It has been a learning session for me, at least. I'm sure for others as well. So thank you so much. Appreciate it.
My pleasure. Very nice. I enjoyed it.
Namaste.
Thank you.
Everyone, thank you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you, Ashish, for managing the show and hosting it.
Thank you, sir.